All right, awesome. Well, welcome everybody to the third Art Friends live stream. And this time we have Connor Widdows of Animal Logic. He's a concept artist. And unfortunately, he can't talk too much about the project he's currently working on. But we're going to talk to him about kind of like his path to getting into a professional studio and sort of like his journey. Welcome, Connor. And as always, also, we have Oliver on the stream with us. So, Connor, why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of like how you started your career?
Okay. Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. For me, I guess I was kind of late getting into the art game. Right after high school, I was working at a warehouse for quite a while.
Okay.
And kind of one day, I just looked back at all my forms and packaging releases, and there was just doodles and drawings all over every single one of them. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to probably regret it for the rest of my life if I don't try. And started school, VFS, basically. And that's where I met Oliver.
Gotcha.
And there's some really great teachers there that really kind of showed me the way. And didn't get a job right after school. Kept doing online courses, kept practicing every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was really grateful and lucky enough to have a family that would support me during that time, so I could literally just practice 8 hours every day.
That's awesome.
For 4 or 5 years straight.
Yeah.
And finally.
So what was that
got
kind
the
of
first
like?
Job.
Yeah. So what was that kind of like transitioning from high school to your job to school? Like, did you have a portfolio that was kind of ready or that you had been working on? Or was it like you one day were like, all right, I need to make a portfolio to apply to this school?
It was, I didn't have a portfolio. I literally had nothing. I had taken one art course in high school.
Okay.
That was it. So I went into VFS really with nothing.
Gotcha.
And I did take their first year program actually. So it's not technically part of the same concept art program.
Mm-hmm.
It's called their Foundation of Art program. And you take that if you don't have a portfolio, which I did not. So I took that. And then once you take that class, you're allowed to take their other programs without a portfolio if you have that kind of base.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And then, funny enough, I was actually signed up for 2D animation before. And then I found during that first year that drawing, like visual development, was my real passion. So then I joined the concept art program. And the second year, I kind of started building up my skills basically.
That's awesome. That's very different. So were you like a drawer as a kid? Did you always just pick up a pencil and draw, or did that kind of come later?
Yeah, I would definitely doodle a lot.
Okay.
I would always be doodling at school when I was supposed to be doing math or something.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, and maybe my grandpa is actually like a fine artist.
Oh, cool.
So he does like oil painting. So I guess growing up with him around, I would maybe some of it rubbed off on me.
What kind of art does he do exactly?
Oh, it's it's a little strange.
Is it like abstract, or is it just fine art?
Kind of. It's okay. He does I guess you would say humans. Maybe you can see. I have one up on the wall back there. That's kind of far away. You can't really see that.
Gotcha.
Anyways, he does just really strange, like human creature, naked.
Gotcha.
Pictures in oil painting, but it's really, really cool. Really nice colors, and he does a lot of books now as well.
Nice.
With his art. So he was definitely a positive influence on me growing up.
Gotcha. So what was kind of like the first action you took after you got through what is it, VFS? I keep forgetting. So you got out of VFS, and then what?
Right after VFS, I I mean, I could still tell that my work, um, I definitely learned create, like I had definitely gotten so much better in that 1 year, but I could still see that, you know, it wasn't like I probably wasn't going to get a job. So I just signed up for online courses through CGMA, right after, like a few months after school, and kept learning and improving my skills, and basically did CGMA courses and my own stuff. Like I said, I was grateful enough to be living with my dad, so literally I was just drawing 6 to 8 hours every day, with a planned, dedicated schedule of exactly what I was going to be doing every day, with those drawing hours of what I wanted to get better at. And I guess, yeah, however long it's been now, 3 years or whatever. Yeah, finally got the first job.
So were you doing any freelance work or anything? Any projects like in between, or was it mostly just like studying and?
Yeah, mostly studying.
Okay.
Again, like my own kind of personal projects, that what I would look at some of my artists that I like to study from and see what they're doing, and kind of plan my projects around that, of actual concept art from certain games that I really like, and try and, do stuff from what I've seen.
Gotcha. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of artists tend to, we talked about this a little bit before too, like either showcases or, freelance to kind of build that up. But it's cool that you kind of just hunkered down and were like, okay, I need to just get as good as I can at my own stuff, build up a portfolio and apply. How many jobs did you apply to before you got this one?
Ooh, a lot. Definitely. Yeah, persistence is key. Yeah, I don't even know. I definitely I would say at least 30, over 30. Just always applying. I mean, I wasn't at the beginning, but for the last like maybe year and a half, that's when I really was like, okay, I actually have some stuff that, I think is at a junior level. So then I started just applying like crazy to anything I could find all over the world. And like I did a few little freelance things just super randomly. Like sorry, my computer screen keeps going black. That I didn't even really apply for. So one time a guy just found me on ArtStation and wanted me to do his Twitch logo.
Nice.
Yeah, sure. So that was actually like my first paid random freelance job.
Yeah.
But that was fun. But other than that, I mean, really not really at all. Just, yeah, like you said, I just kind of hunkered down and just studied.
That's awesome. So is your current position technically a junior concept artist, or is it a like standard concept artist?
I guess on the application it is classified junior to mid. That's what it said. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Junior to mid level concept artist.
I have never actually worked in a studio. I've only ever worked remotely. So it's interesting to kind of hear how what your day is kind of like, and like what the differences are from working at home by yourself. So you were also saying too, you're like, yeah, I'm the newest and the worst person here, so I'm learning a lot, which is Oliver's having to turn his lights on.
Yeah, that's always my favorite spot to be, is with a much more experienced and talented people around me, and you always learn the most, and that's always where I like to be, is learning as much as I can. So it's
that's great.
Always great when you have people who are willing to teach and you can learn from. I love it.
So do you get a lot of opportunity to, like, if you're kind of struggling with something, go to another artist and just be like, hey, I don't know what's wrong with this, but can you take a look at it, or something like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Everyone I work with is extremely nice and helpful.
Gotcha. And I know you're not allowed to talk too much about the project or anything, but how many artists are working around you at the same time?
Artists, I don't know, because there's there's a whole bunch of different,
Types of
teams.
artists.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I can't really say too
But it's
much,
not
but
like
the
there's a
actual
little.
art team is like relatively small compared to everything else.
Okay. So, like, are you in a like cubicle area with other concept artists, or is everybody kind of
Yeah.
spread around? Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah.
So at least you're kind of surrounded by people that are doing the
Mm-hmm.
same thing as you. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess your art director, does he oversee multiple types of art, or do you have like a concept artist art director that you kind of report to?
Yeah, there's a few. One of them does, and the other one's more just art team.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. So, yeah, you were talking a little bit about taking your CGMA courses, and you're doing one now with Marco Bucci, right?
It just finished last month.
You just finished, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about your experience with that? Because I'd be interested to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, I know there's a few online schools out there. CGMA just really worked for me. I like how you get the content, it's pre-recorded, and then you get a actual live video every week from the teacher, so you can ask questions on your homework when you hand it in, whatever you want, things that you're struggling with, and then when they give you the video, they see your homework and any questions you may have asked, and they can help you with those certain things. And there's also the live chat, which is, I think, the best part about CGMA. So every week for an hour, or sometimes I think some teachers may do it differently, but usually it's an hour a week live, kind of like what we're doing right now, video, like chat. And everyone from the class who's ever available goes in. The teacher's in the room. The screen, you see the teacher's screen, and it's literally, you can talk about whatever you want. Ask the teacher whatever you want. Ask them to draw whatever you want. It's a really nice open communication with your teacher every week, which I think is the best part of the course, in my opinion.
And also, I'm sure it gives a sense of like collaboration between artists as well, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't
definitely
feel
a
like
lot of
you're
nice people
by yourself the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've never done one of those courses, but you're kind of selling me on it right now.
Yeah, they're nice. And if, say, you really liked it and it's not full, usually you can take the same course again at half price if it's not full and you've already taken it.
Gotcha.
So
interesting.
It's it's cool.
Interesting.
And yeah, Margot Bucci's class was amazing.
Yeah.
Art of color and light was something I've been struggling with. So there was definitely a lot of things that I learned in that term.
Gotcha.
My rendering and painting and how shadow and light works. So really liked it.
So you were also talking a little bit, I had asked you earlier, you obviously go to work during the week, and I was like, what do you do on the weekend? You said you had a personal project. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm always trying to work on, I kind of have this list of character projects that I just have been going through of characters that I'm designing. The one right now, I find myself with my characters. Excuse me. My characters are always really massive, and I just draw like these huge beefy dudes always. Yeah. So this one, I'm like, all right, I got to break away from that. So this project is she's a girl.
Okay.
So, and that's because I tend to draw only guys as well. So I'm really trying to branch out, learn some new things, broaden my horizons. So it's a girl character project, and she's kind of crossing to like the 1800s kind of French, Louisiana, with kind of this voodoo vibe. So that's cool. I'm just kind of working on variation exploration sketches for that right now.
So are all of these characters you're making like in the same world, or are they their own kind of entities?
I guess no, they're not necessarily in the same world, but I'm trying to do them all in the same kind of style. I mentioned to you before, my goal is to one day work at Riot. So I definitely look at a lot of Riot concept art and try and tailor my stuff to what they're doing, basically.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Or my personal stuff anyways.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see.
Yeah, sorry for the hiccup earlier. I think the lights just got kind of.
No result.
I wanted to ask you what is kind of your take on art school in general? I know you really like the CGMA courses, but how did you find your experience at VFS?
At VFS, yeah, I really enjoyed myself. It was really nice to be able to just focus solely on studying and art.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 24-hour school, so I could just be there all day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the teachers were really, really amazing. They really kind of made my time there.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
They were all good. They were all good.
Teacher, would you
What's
say?
that?
Who would you say was the most critical, harshest?
Critical?
Yeah.
Who's critical?
I'm just putting you in the spot or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the Jessies were really great. I learned a lot from both the Jessies. Yeah, and I always appreciated their critiques and their advice. Very knowledgeable guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have kind of any takeaways or any recommendations for people to specifically go to art school? Because I know a lot of concept artists have typically hot takes on like you should either do it or you shouldn't do it because there's the internet kind of thing. So
yeah,
are you somewhere in between that philosophy?
I mean, that is true. You can get a lot of knowledge now for free on the internet for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it was just, you know, I'm there, I'm paying this money. So I was extremely focused, like, and I was there all day and there was nothing else going on. There was no excuses. It's like, I'm here, I've paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there 10 hours every day.
So it's kind of
VFS.
like what you get at you get what you put into it, sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And if you ask the teachers, you know, use their knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's really, and I don't know about other schools because I've only been to VFS where you can actually go in the school apart from CGMA, which is just online. But yeah, all the teachers to work at VFS, you have to actually have a job in the industry as well.
That's good.
I would ask so many questions, always ask for critiques. Even I was probably pretty annoying sometimes, but I was always asking questions, always asking for critiques every chance I get.
I remember, like, because I feel like that's really important. Like when you've got those tutors like right there and in front of you, and they can quickly draw over your work. I remember, like always, it was really nice to have.
Yeah, I think your guys' schooling experience was much different than mine because I went to Penn State, which is very much more a liberal arts school, and I was in the art program, but it was just like nobody knew what they were doing. I didn't have a lot of other students around me to sort of push me, and for me specifically, that's what kind of motivates me is like friendly competition, and I felt like I had none, you know? So that's what kind of forced me into like finding my own freelance work and sort of pushing through that, and attending events and meeting artists like outside of school is kind of what caused me to kind of get to where I am, and may have been a little bit why I chose to go more of the freelance route as opposed to like so much of a studio presence. But
we have a question, by the way.
Yeah, do you want to read it, Oliver?
Right. So this person asks, how do you know when you're ready to start applying for studio work? How many pieces do you recommend to put in a portfolio when applying?
I mean, I guess there's probably no true answer to that, but for me, I honestly kind of stepped away from my work and objectively tried to look at it and be like, and then look at other work of say where I'm trying to work of other people's art, and I'm like, is this the same caliber? And if not, then I just kind of waited until that time where I could actually look at mine and then look at someone else's and say, yeah, okay, I can do this. Like, I think mine measures up. And as for portfolio, I mean, I think everyone has a different answer for that. I know I asked a lot of teachers at CGMA kind of like how many pieces you should have in your portfolio. You know, one guy said, 15 pieces is good. Other people say different. I mean, now I just have a section for characters, a section for environments, and kind of section it off like that. And then, so yeah, I don't really know.
Was there anything specific that stood out when you applied to Animal Logic? Whoever reviewed your portfolio, were they like, hey, I specifically like this from your work? Or was there like, were you applying for more of a character position or environment position, or was it just like a generalist concept artist position?
Yeah, it's more of a generalist position.
Okay.
But there was some things that stood out definitely, because obviously as a junior, you're not going to be doing the glamorous stuff.
Sure.
So definitely props.
Okay.
being able to draw things in different angles is a very, very hireable skill, drawing things in 3D. So definitely have turnarounds of objects. Something that stood out, the recruiter mentioned, was this cart that I had, which was funny. I was going to actually take it off my portfolio because I'm like, I don't know if I like this thing anymore. It's like way at the end.
Yeah.
But it's this, I think it's called the Trader's Cart, and I have an orthograph of it in every angle and then drawn in 3D.
Is that still on your portfolio?
Yeah, I think it's in environments or something.
Okay, I'm going to show everyone.
And so I have the orthograph drawn in every angle, then drawn in 3/4, and then I have the render, and it's super simple. And then props kind of around the outside. And I did a rough mock-up in SketchUp as well. And they really, really liked that.
Oh, interesting. Oh, Trader's Cart. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm showing everybody right now.
Yeah, and
and you had some items that could go inside the cart too. Yeah, that's really nice.
And they really, really liked that. So definitely, I would say have stuff on there that shows you can draw in 3D, because that's or orthographs. They're important.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, so you did do a mock-up in SketchUp. What's kind of your take on learning 3D as a concept artist?
Yeah, if you have the means, I would definitely say do it. It just makes you even more hireable.
Sure.
100% if you can do 3D as well.
Nice.
So
yeah.
I just quick. I was just going to ask. So, are you looking into practicing more 3D, or for your personal stuff, or do you think you rather leave that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'd like to, but right now I really just have no time. Telling you guys, my commute is pretty brutal right now.
Yeah.
So maybe when my living situation is more on track and I'm living close to work, I'll have a few more extra hours in the day. But right now, no, I'm not. I mean, I still use SketchUp, but it's a pretty simple program, and it's also free. So if anyone's listening, that's also a really useful tool that you can use to just quickly make a few shapes. If you're struggling with drawing something in 3D, it even has the 3D warehouse library, which is super useful, and you can just type in whatever you want, and you can literally put it in and look at it from every angle. Super, super useful.
Yeah, I was saying this in the last stream. I sometimes use Daz 3D to just like pose characters and light them. And for me, because you were just saying this too, like I kind of struggled for a really, really long time with light, and being able to turn the figure and like pull the light away and push it forward and everything has really helped me like understand like physically how light is working, because anybody can explain to you the science behind light, but until you like see how everything is working together and how shadows are being cast, it's a little bit hard to wrap your head around. So
yeah, for sure. And what's that called? Is that a free program?
Yep, it's called Daz 3D, and they give you a couple. They give you like a male and a female model, and then you can buy like armor and like horses and all this crazy stuff. But I just use the basic set of stuff that they give you.
That's amazing. I didn't know there was. I'm gonna download that.
Yeah, it's very easy to become over reliant on it because obviously, like, unless you're an expert in lighting in 3D, like your lighting is not going to look super realistic. But it's good to just get a general idea of like if the light is here, the shadow under the chin is going to go this way, like that kind of stuff. So
awesome.
Yeah. Are there any other tools that you use besides DAZ 3D that you kind of integrate, or sorry, besides SketchUp that you integrate into your work? Or is it mostly just painting in Photoshop and occasionally finding references and stuff?
Yeah, it's all painting from Photoshop. Gotcha. Reference, though, is big. I always find good reference photos. Definitely a lot of my beginning part is all just searching for kind of focused reference. You know, I'll start out a project with like parameters of exactly what I want, you know, the feeling to be or what I'm looking to accomplish or what the two major or something that one of my teachers in CGMA told me is a good thing to do, is, which I do now, is just have two like major what's the word? References, I guess. So say for my new character project I'm working on right now, it's like I said, you know, like colonial era Louisiana mixed with voodoo. Because they told me that you don't want too many competing things, so it's nice to just have like two major references. And I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but that's just kind of how I do it now, and I find it.
Yeah, it's almost like the question, what if I combine this with this to make something
exactly.
I never thought about it that way. That's actually a pretty cool way to go about concepting.
Yeah. So that's and then it also focuses my reference a lot more because I can.
Sure.
I'm sure you guys have done this too, where you're just, that's cool. That's cool, and I'm just looking endlessly on Pinterest or something, and I'm just finding all this cool stuff. And then the last hour, I've realized I haven't actually found anything that's useful for my current project because I haven't really focused on what I'm looking for. So.
Touching on like process, like do you set yourself like certain constraints, or like for your personal projects, like how do you like to go about like putting those constraints? Do you kind of write things down, or do you think
for sure. So for certain things that I want to do for this project, I would say I have everything written down on my little corkboard over here of exactly what I want to accomplish in this certain project. So my last character project, I didn't really do like spell animations or anything. So this one I've got on my list. Okay, like once I have the character nailed down, I'm going to do a page of, you know, what her attacks and spells might look like.
Cool.
And I also want to do like what else am I doing? I want to try and do a down 3/4 shot in this one as well. Like once I have her final paint, I'll do, you know, the back view. But this time I'm going to do a 3/4. So I have like a list of every single page that I'm going to do in this project.
So more like an isometric view.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's especially useful if you're, you know, trying to build game concept art as well, because that's how they're going to be seen, especially in something like League of Legends. And what's important too, and what you'll kind of learn from experimenting with this, is like obviously the top half of them is way more important than the bottom half of them, because you're not going to see their legs as much as you're going to see their shoulders. So accentuating things on the shoulders and like the hair and stuff like that is going to make the character pop. So
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool that you have like legitimately a list of like, okay, this is what I want to get better at, and I'm going to knock these things off in my personal work. I think that's an interesting way to do it, because I don't want to call myself lazy, because I'm not a lazy person, but it's almost like, okay, I want to get better at hard surface, so I'm going to do a painting study of an airplane, you know, as opposed to being like, I want to integrate something airplane-like into an original concept to learn how to do it that way. I think that's probably a better way of approaching it, to kind of like build up the skill set that you want to more practical way.
Mm.
Because I guess you could still always do a study if you're like struggling integrating it
Yeah.
into your concept.
Yeah. I like doing studies too, though, for sure. Like, if whatever that I'm working on currently, there's definitely always something that, oh, I have never really drawn or painted that before. So I'll definitely do a lot of studies. Like right now, I'm really focused on like dresses. I've never drawn or painted dresses. So every day at work, I do, a quick 20-minute study of a girl in a dress. Yeah, studies are great.
Yeah. Oliver was asking you a little bit about your process earlier as well. And again, if you're not allowed to talk about this, then don't worry about it. But like in the studio, when you're doing concept art, are you producing more like line art stuff, or are you going to like fully rendered, like concepts?
No,
of your
yeah, for
characters?
my position, it's not fully rendered.
Okay. So it's a little bit more sketchy and maybe like flatter colors and stuff like that. Gotcha. And for your, I mean, we can even see on the. So I have a splash screen on the Twitch thing of your. What is this guy with the horns? Does he have a name?
Yeah, it's just my last character project.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like this protector of the forest or something.
Yeah. What's cool about this too is you're kind of showing your whole skill set on a sheet of like, here's the painted thing, here's the turnaround and everything, and it's kind of sounding like that's what these studios are looking for, is that not only can you paint really nice, but you know how to represent the character in space.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, coming back to studies on that, would you recommend students like learning to deconstruct things, or like kind of like how would you approach a study, really?
I like to do a few types. Like sometimes I'll just take, a real photo and then study that, right? Of like, whatever, a girl in a dress, or say, but then I also do studies of my favorite artists. So I study a lot of artists that work at Riot, and I take their stuff and I'll literally, time myself 1 hour and just try and perfectly recreate it and really, really look at how they use light, how they use, their values. And you really, once you do that a lot, I find you just start noticing things. Because at the beginning, if you just kind of look at something, for me anyways, that I find you see it, but I don't really see it. Only after really studying and drawing it over and over again, you really notice a lot of different little things that really make up the whole thing that I didn't notice at first. So I find doing really studies like that really help a lot for whoever artist that you want to, I don't know, you want to, your stuff want to look like one day. Yeah, I know one of our teachers at VFS explained that like your art or style or whatever is like whoever you study, basically. You're a combination of all the artists that you study. So I try and study a few that I really, really like and hope to be as good as one day.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I think a lot of artists would tell you, if you're going to study other artists' work, study like old master paintings sort of thing. And I think that'll get you so far in terms of realism sort of skill set. But yeah, if you're trying to apply to a specific studio that has a specific way of doing things, I mean, there's a bunch of artists at Riot, but at the end of the day, you look at any of their works and you're like, oh, that's Riot art, And the only way to achieve that is to be able to emulate that sort of look. So that is interesting too. I haven't really I guess I haven't had a need too much to dive into studying other artists' work, but I think that's good to know for people that are looking for a specific thing. It's like if you want to work at like Naughty Dog, for example, they're not really gonna care how well you paint unless it's almost photorealistic. They're gonna prefer that you photo bash and almost have like matte painting looking artwork, because that's the style of their games.
Yeah.
So do you have to do any sort of photo bashing ever?
No, I've never photoshopped before, actually.
Okay. That's interesting too, because I think that's a lot of I think that's a worry for a lot of artists as well, is like having to know all of these different sort of skill sets that like aren't even drawing and painting. So it is good to hear that like you still can in 2020 get a position at a studio just by drawing and painting well, you know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And for, cartoon stuff, right? Like, I know there's a lot of studios in Vancouver where I live, right? And they just strictly do, kids cartoon shows. And I guess it depends on, like you said, what you want to go into. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of jobs where it's just kind of cartoony stuff.
Yeah.
Well, where I live, I'm lucky enough to live in Vancouver, but I'm sure it's different for a lot of other places.
I think that's good to know for many artists, because it's as a student, I think there's this trend suddenly where they feel like they have to know everything in 3D and do 2D at the same time. I feel like it's good to hear from other artists yourself that specifically just do 2D art as well and a little bit of 3D. Yeah. And like, I wanted to ask you as well, sorry to dwell on the kind of study kind of thing, but
no, of course, please.
Like, fundamentals is like such a big thing that everyone just throws around. In your experience, like, how did you go about, like, was there particular struggles, like a certain part of fundamentals that you particularly struggled with?
Yeah, no, and fundamentals, like, I'm sure everyone's heard it. You'll hear it again. Like, fundamentals are fundamentals for a reason. Everything is from the fundamentals. And I think everyone can always get better at them. They're tough. I mean, for me, that's why I just took this kind of lighting course with Marco Bucci. Is my forms, I can use a lot of work, like my form painting on exactly where shadows go. And it's something that I definitely learned a lot in this class. For me, was like reflected light. I knew about it before, but I don't even think it's in my last character project, that Spirit of the Forest guy. I don't think there's any reflected light in there because I really didn't understand it fully yet. So I learned a lot about that. But I mean, perspective is super important. A lot of people don't like to do it, but I mean, perspective is everything. It's good to know.
Awesome.
Yeah, just solid shapes, I guess, is another fundamental that's always important. You want to break things down into simple shapes, as simple as you can before you start rendering. And if it looks good as simple shapes, it'll probably work once all the details are in.
Would you say drawing is like the drawing line art side of it before you start painting is an important part of your process?
It used to be, but now that I just took that class with Marco, I find my sketches are a little more not like tied down in the perfect lines now. I like having a little more space to just paint.
Yeah, he definitely has a very organic way of moving the paint around and not being so confined to a specific like look at the beginning.
Yeah. So we'll see. I haven't, like I said, I'm still working on this character project, and I just finished that class like last month. So I'm still kind of working pieces of his methods into my own work. So we'll see when the finished project is done.
Do you watch a lot of YouTube channels as well, or is it mostly like CGMA and ArtStation
YouTube
stuff?
Yeah, it's mostly CGMA. When I was living in Germany, and I was really doing a lot of people or figure drawing, I was watching a lot of Stan Prokopenko.
Okay, yeah.
Proko.
Yeah.
You guys have probably heard of him, and he's really great free reference on YouTube. It's basically a whole figure drawing course for free on YouTube, and I found that really useful. I'm trying to think, do I follow anyone else? Yeah, not really, just courses. And I find like I get more out if I'm really than free stuff. If I'm paying for the course, I know like I'm using my own money for this, and I'm gonna put 100% of my effort into it.
Yeah.
Or else, it's a waste. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. We have another question too.
Yeah.
Ashley says, as I've gotten older and more skills I found that the sketch phase slows me down sometimes. In concept art, I can imagine that as long as the structure is strong, line art isn't as important. That's just my experience, though.
What are your thoughts on that?
Hi, Ashley. Yeah, I could see that, and I guess it probably depends on the project, exactly who you're working for too. I'm sure some companies, may just want the line art. Sometimes things that I do for my job, like it needs to be only line art, and it has to be tied down perfectly, right? Because I feel like sometimes, unless you're the head concept artist, as it were, like for the most part, you're not really going to be doing, or just from my experience anyways, like concept art paintings. You're going to be doing a lot of little stuff to give to the modelers, to give to the 3D modelers, right? So it doesn't need to be painted, that stuff. And again, I don't work in games, so maybe it's different, but down the line, that stuff gets taken care of by the surfacers and lighting. So I guess, yeah, it depends on the project. It's good to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of the early jobs, you probably will only be doing line work and stuff to give to the modelers.
You touched an important point there, because like student, I think many people, like especially for me as well, like was quite unaware about like how much they have to work with other people in the other departments.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
Huge.
Yeah, and I think it's great to hear from you to say that you work with not just your team but with the modelers and the lighting department. So I think,
and I guess it would also be different if you're just doing a 2D TV show. Then obviously there is no modelers, there's no surfacing, there's no lighting. It's just, I would assume, only visual development and the concept artists. I've never worked on a 2D show, although I'd like to someday, but I can only speak from my own experience. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that sometimes it's not even worth it to draw, because the modelers can do it way faster and easier.
Sure. So going off that, like, how much liberty do you feel like the modelers take in terms of texture compared to how much you're representing texture in your concept? Or is it mostly like form that you're
I think modelers just do the modeling, and then surfacing does more texture stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another question here, actually. It says, I really want to go concept art for kids movies. Are there courses you can recommend? So I'm presuming, like, in terms of film development, like, how would you say is that more for animation? Be a bit different in your case for movies?
Say that one more time.
It's just, this person's asking, I really want to go into concept art for kids movies. Are there any classes or courses
that I would recommend?
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, I know. I mean, just because I take CGMA, I know CGMA has a lot of courses on everything that you can take, and I know Schoolism is out there. I'm sure they have great courses as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on more what you want to do for the movies, because there's a lot of, unless you're the head guy or girl doing the concept art, for the most part you're probably going to be specialized, in my experience anyways. So whether you want to do environments, then really focus on environments. If you want to do characters, really focus on characters. I will say there's definitely a lot less jobs for characters So it is good to have, I think I mentioned at the beginning, to have props, because probably at the beginning of your career, you will be doing objects and props. And yeah, so I mean, definitely. And I would take fundamental classes rather than over, say, like, I know they have a video game character class in CGMA, but I've found that the fundamental classes like analytical figure drawing and drapery are way more useful for me, and then I can do my own personal projects because I just find them more important and useful than, say, jumping right into a video game character class where, you know, there's a lot of other things that build up to that. I feel like.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I feel like that's where a lot of students I tend get, like myself as well, like lost when they see the kind of shortcuts, the tutorials of like, oh, create a character design. But I think when you're kind of new to the like fundamentals and you're not really sure what skills you need to get to that second step, I think it's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sounding like you like to learn your fundamentals and explore realism a bit more, and then in your case, you're like, okay, if I need to learn how to do a video game character concept, I'll just study other artists and the way they approach it, but at least I know now how to draw a figure in perspective and light him and everything, and then you can kind of mix the two studies and you know, your prior knowledge. So,
yeah, I would say it's almost similar to like a sport. You know, you have your practices every day all week, you know, which is like you're studying, and then you do your project, which is like the game, and you learn a lot of things doing the project, and you also learn what you don't know, and you're like, oh, I actually really don't know how to do that now that I'm doing this project. So now it gives you more material for your practice, and then it keeps going. So I would say do a lot of studies, but you don't only want to do studies, like you want to be doing projects too.
Yeah,
I would say, I think, because then you figure out exactly what you don't know, and that will tailor your next studies basically.
Sure.
And it's a cycle.
So have you kind of your whole career been keeping some sort of project going?
Yeah,
alongside your studies?
always have a project.
Okay. Yeah, I do think that's important as well, because it is easy to get into the trap of just like, oh, I'm just going to keep copying photos or something like that. And once you get good at that, it's sort of like comfortable, I guess. And going back to the thing that you were talking about before of like keeping a spreadsheet almost of like, I want to learn this, and this, it forces you outside of your comfort zone and explore something new in a finished piece that you can then showcase that's original. So I think that's a great way to build up a portfolio.
Yeah, I think you explained it really well there. Definitely getting out of your comfort zone is huge. That's the toughest part, right? Because you don't want to do things that make you feel crappy, like, oh, this sucks. What am I even doing with my life? My art is crap. But that's what you have to do, and that's the hardest part, I find, is really doing what you're not good at. And when you're uncomfortable, that means you're learning, which is always where I want to be anyways, is always learning. So like I said, that's why I started this character project. You know, I've never drawn dresses before, so I'm doing something that I'm really not comfortable with at all, but I've already learned so much.
That's awesome.
So is there something, just very quickly, is there something you would have done differently in like during your 1 year at school at VFS?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I wish I had taken art classes before VFS, like 100%. VFS, for those who don't know, was a like a 1 year intensive program. Really amazing. Got a lot out of it. But I would have gotten even more out of it if I had gone to art school before. I would say, and just actually learned about art and what fundamentals actually are. Because in VFS, I had no prior knowledge and was tossed right in. And my time would have been better utilized if I had already known fundamentals, because the class moves really fast, right? It's only 1 year to learn everything, which is obviously impossible. So they really glaze over a lot of stuff. So if I had just taken the time and, right after high school done, or even taken online classes first, just on fundamentals of art for, a few years, I definitely would have got a lot more out of my time there.
Interesting. Going back to the stepping outside your comfort zone thing, in your day-to-day studio work, are you ever kind of being thrown into a situation where you're like, I don't really know if I know how to do this, or is it mostly you're getting work that you're pretty comfortable with?
No, all the time, for sure.
Okay.
I'm always drawing stuff where I'm like, I've never drawn this before. How does this work? Which is good, because there's just some things, you would never think to draw. And like, all right, we need this. Draw it. I'm like, okay. You have a day. Let's go. So you've got to figure it out quick.
Yeah. Are your deadlines pretty harsh, or is it? Are you feeling like you're drawing at kind of your normal pace?
It's good. I've definitely gotten a lot faster, which is nice.
Yeah.
But no, they're not too harsh.
Okay.
They're not too harsh, and everyone's very helpful.
That's awesome.
So I'm lucky to have very, very, very nice art directors and production designers. And
because I heard film specifically can be pretty brutal in terms of deadlines and stuff like that. And I'm sure it's just like any other studio where there's certain times you go into crunch mode and sometimes it's a little bit more relaxed, but yeah. Interesting. Cool. So we're almost at the hour mark. Oliver, do you have any other questions?
I can go a bit over. Actually, if you guys want, if there's people that still have questions, this is
let me
really nice. Having a good time talking with y'all.
Awesome. Anyone have any more questions in the chat? Just feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Oliver.
I've got one quick one. Speaking of animation, do you have a certain a particular style of animation that you gravitate towards? Is that style?
2D for sure. Like I mentioned before, before I did concept art, I was actually signed up for 2D animation, and I really, really love. If I wasn't a concept artist and I did it all over for whatever reason, I would definitely. I just really love the art of 2D animation. I think it's not as lost anymore. I like how there's a lot more shows that are coming out now that are actually 2D, but I just love the fluidity of it, and it's just really beautiful to watch.
Have you seen Love, Death and Robot?
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten to see that. I heard it's awesome.
Oh man, it's so good. It's so good.
I gotta watch that.
Jesse worked on one of those episodes. Oliver?
Oh, really?
Yeah, our old teacher. For anyone
that's
wondering
awesome.
what we're talking about, he worked on one of the episodes. Vima Blue, the one with the pool cleaning robot. Anyways, he did some of the backgrounds for that, so that's really cool.
Oh, nice, awesome. Actually, it's funny because my course leader actually worked on one of them as well. It's the one with the where they're in an arena and then there's monsters fighting.
The first episode? Oh man, that's so cool. That was one of my favorites.
Characters in that one.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I've been hearing, I don't know if it's just speculation, but they're having a second part as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
How often, now that you're in a studio setting, how often do you get to communicate with other artists in neighboring studios?
I guess none. I don't think I've talked to anyone from another studio.
Gotcha. Okay. Because it sounds like you guys are pretty connected, especially where you're at in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to talk about too is let's just dive in a little bit into your acting career.
Okay.
I just think it's very unique and something that we wouldn't get a lot from other artists. So
Yeah.
So yeah, for those who didn't know, Connor was a child actor, and what we had kind of talked about a little bit earlier that I think is so interesting about it is I think a lot of artists find themselves being a little bit more on the introverted side, and I think to be an actor and to be in front of all those people and sort of like putting yourself out there takes a little bit of like an extrovert personality. So. Would you say you're more extroverted or introverted or kind of in between?
I'm definitely extremely introverted.
Okay.
That's another big reason why I stopped doing it actually, is as
Okay.
I got older and less in like kid mode, it
Yeah.
just like I'm naturally a very shy person. I guess trained myself to be able to be extroverted when I need to be, because that's also I feel like important sometimes. So like I read a lot. I read a lot of books, and some of those helped with that.
Is there
But
any
definitely
you
sometimes
recommend specifically?
Recommend?
Yeah.
I would say it's called How to Make Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. I don't know if that's the right term. Just look it up really quick. But that book is How to Influence. That's timeless wisdom. This book. It's like from the 40s, but it's just about how to be a nice person, basically, and like it's really good. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is what it's called. Dale Carnegie.
Cool.
That's a really, really good book.
Yeah, how
to talk to people, basically, and it's really helped me a lot over the years.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the big things we like to promote with Art Bros is sort of like making art friends, making connections, going to events if you can, and stuff like that. Because anybody can sit in their room and draw in a little bubble, but like if you're not able to, showcase your work and showcase yourself and your personality, then nobody's going to want to work with you. And then the other thing I wanted to ask as well, in terms of when you applied, you showcase your portfolio in terms of your cover letter or your interviews or anything. Like, you don't have to talk about anything you're not allowed to, but like, what were you kind of showcasing, or did you get any feedback on anything specifically about you as a person?
Definitely just knowing how to, again, I guess, show that level of, I guess, confidence, for lack of a better word, really always looking people in the eye, firm handshake, being able to ask them questions. I definitely asked them a lot of questions, which I think helped, really research the company, like do your homework, like is number one. Always do your homework, whatever you're doing in life. Make sure you know everything, or as much as you can, about it before you do it. I think the cover letter I found helpful, because I've changed my cover letter a lot over when I was applying, and I found I started getting more hits when I started tailoring it towards what, say, I can do for the company, not what I've done in the past.
Sure.
So being like, this is what I bring to the table. Like, I can do this, I can bring a positive attitude every day. I can, so not so much your past achievements, while those are good for, examples on your resume. But I find it's like what you can do for them.
Yeah,
it's all about them, not about you.
Yeah. How can I help
another
you?
thing I know, which is basically why I got the job. I talked to the guy, and you gotta take that initiative. So they didn't ask for an art test in the interview. They just kind of briefly discussed what I would be doing in my job, and without going into what exactly that is, I went home and drew something of kind of what they were describing, what they wanted me to be doing, and I sent it to them, and they called me that day and said I got the job. So
that's awesome.
Because they, I'm sure a lot of companies, they just want people that don't really need to be babysat. They want to know that you're gonna get the job done. So I found that extremely useful. And again, I don't know, just reading a lot has kind of helped me. Like, it's these like kind of intangibles that it's obviously art is important, but like you said, Nick, like if you can't work with this person, then it doesn't matter how good your art is, or if, you know, so it's always learning about everything, which makes you
more well-rounded,
a better, more competent person. So
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this meme going around quite a lot that says, "Be teachable. You're not always right," and I think that's very important to learn as an artist, because a lot of times too, it's like when you produce art, you're like, this is my baby, you know, like I love it so much. And the expression that I had to learn in art school was sometimes you need to kill your babies, you know, and kind of learn a lesson or two. So as far as critique goes at the studio as well, like it sounds like you're more or less like asking for critique quite a lot. Do you get a lot of feedback as well where your art director is like, yo, you got to redo this or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, if it's not right for the project, and like you said, you got to kill the baby no matter how much you like it. If I've been working on something, I'm like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, you know, we're going a different direction and no one will ever see it again, like ever. And that's just the way it goes. You have to be removed from your work. If it's not right for the project, then whatever, throw it out, move on. And that's, you know, I don't even save my studies, even if it's a nice one. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Just throw it out. Doesn't matter. Keep moving on.
Yeah, a little tip that I have for people in the chat is the one thing I've learned the hard way a couple times is if you're submitting variations to an art director, never ever submit one that you don't like in the slightest bit, because they're always going to pick the one that you don't like, and then you're going to hate working on it. So make sure everything you submit you love, or at least kind of like. All right, we have another question. Hey everyone, I have a question that will be a bit odd, but are you guys familiar with a studio having internships that have no requirements? I don't have too much to say about that, besides there's a lot of opportunities for like online work where you could kind of do an internship sort of thing, but in terms of a studio position, I don't know. Do you guys have any feedback on that?
Yeah, actually, not really.
Actually, that's an interesting one, because I think it really it depends on the studio, because I know Animal Logic don't have a internship, correct, or like any.
No, I don't think there is. Yeah, like no.
But I have heard of a lot of game companies do like graduate schemes for internships, and I'm actually applying for a few in the UK right now. I can't say too much about other places, but in terms of film, I've heard. I think ILM are actually starting to look into internships for students.
Okay.
So there are gradually. It's a new thing that's coming, I think, for more studios, because I think they're trying to bridge the gap between the universities and the professional industries a bit more, because they feel that there's a bit of a disconnect right now.
Yeah,
yes.
I would agree.
So the way they kind of phrased it was, they said, I found it kind of fishy. There's one available near me, but I just wanted to see what you guys think of them. So in my opinion, like I'm pretty sure Blizzard has one. I mean, if you're able to get an internship with Blizzard, even if, I don't know if they pay or not, even if you're working for free, that's something you'll always have with you. And I'm sure just by meeting other artists, you're going to learn a lot and make a lot of good connections. So it kind of comes down to that. If it's a studio that you've never heard of, or it's just so small and they're like, hey, we're offering an internship, it's like just apply for a normal job with them if you feel like you can. Because I think the most valuable thing with an internship is the connections and the experience working with a bigger name, if you can. So
yeah, actually, there's one thing that it says is this in this question that says have no requirements. So I presume they're asking if whether they need a degree or may possibly have some kind of recommendation.
Previous experience or something.
Experience, yeah. In my case, I think it really depends on the studio, and but I have seen certain studios will require you to have kind of shipped game or some kind of 3 years experience prior.
I've seen other
So-
internship programs that require you to still be in school when you apply
Yeah.
for it.
For sure.
They said, yeah, I mean, the odd thing was that the only info was something like 3D modeling, and they phrased it like, hey, do you want to see what it's like to have the job? So you don't need to have a degree or experience or anything, just the interest. I mean, I don't know. At the same time, it's kind of like if you're struggling to find any opportunity, like if you're just working in any capacity, you're going to learn something. Like I've told the story a bunch of times. I haven't told you yet, Connor, but when I first started, I was still in college and I was working for free on, it was one of those projects where they're like, yeah, we're building an MMO. And it's like, no, you're not. But I just took it, you know, I just took it so that I could like do concept art in sort of like a solidified sort of way. And
Right.
the guy that was my art director at the time is actually the reason that the channel is called Art Bros, because he would always call me an art bro. And
Yeah.
through him, I started attending more events and met a bunch of people. So it's kind of like you never really know. Sometimes you need to just take a risk and just see what happens. But if you feel like you're just like too good for that in a sort of way, you might be, and you might want to look for a different opportunity. So it kind of depends on your situation.
Does, okay.
Does anybody else have any more questions or anything you guys want to talk about? I'm a little bit
Fun.
out of questions off the top of my head.
Yeah. So Connor, do you have time to like what do you do in your spare time when you're not like at work? Like do you play video games or?
Yeah, I do. Friday night, League of Legends is what I do.
Nice.
Me and my friends play. I got a friend that lives in
Oh,
Oh, what happened? The call.
I think it's yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Is he coming back?
I think so. Oh, looks like we haven't.
Can you message him?
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, there we
Oh.
go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
I don't know,
we can
like,
hear you now.
My internet just turned off for some reason.
That's all right.
That's weird. Yeah, and I also just got, funny enough, I played my first Zelda game, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Your
And
first
now-
Zelda game. Oh man.
Yeah, and now I love Zelda. So it was my birthday last week, and I just asked for my birthday. I got the Nintendo 3DS with the remastered version of Ocarina of Time and Majora's
Nice.
Mask. So I've been playing Ocarina of Time, and holy crap, it's hard. I can't
Oh,
believe
dude, it's
this
such a good
came out,
game.
and, it's so fun though. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm doing right now, playing Zelda
Nice.
Nice.
That's a
on the
good
bus and stuff on my way to work.
Rakuen, I can't pronounce this person's name, but yeah, about that. What is a hobby that you have that works really well with your job? Like not directly related, but something that teaches you some things you can incorporate in your work.
Well, definitely, like I said before, reading. Like I'm a huge reader. I'm reading all the time, basically. And that I would just say life in general has, I don't know, I say made my time from starting to want to become an artist. I think I probably cut my time in half from getting a job just from all these books that I've read on, say, like how to, like there's one that I read that was super helpful. It's called Willpower. And it's literally this these scientists that studied and really, I don't know if this is the right word, but like quantified that willpower is a real thing and you actually have it, and it decreases during the day, and how you can fight that and plan your day around getting what you want and need to get done.
Interesting.
So that was a really, really helpful one. Another one I read was it's called The One Thing, which is kind of similar, but it's again these other kind of scientist dudes that have really figured out how to like get things done basically. And so I have an Audible account. Me and my friend share an Audible account, and we're always buying new ebooks from this certain list of kind of like self improvement books. And yeah, it's honestly made my life so much better in all aspects.
Is your friend another artist as well?
No, he's a personal trainer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Do you find yourself communicating with many art friends, and do you find that important?
I definitely like talk to a lot of, well, not a lot, but people from my time at VFS that I still like to talk to.
Sure.
I saw I see my old teachers still quite a bit, and that actually helps a lot too, is mentors basically.
Yeah.
Always try and find a mentor. It will decrease the time it takes for you to learn things so much. So like one of my old teachers, after graduating, I got back from Germany, I took him out to lunch and just told them what I'm trying to accomplish and if he would mentor me, and he agreed. So that I forgot to talk about that. Really helped a lot, visiting with him once a month, show him all the stuff I'm working on, and just critiques my stuff. It's I can't stress the importance of mentors as well.
Yeah, I find that funny because when I first started learning about mentors, when I was like in college, I was like, everybody gave that advice, like find a mentor, and I never knew what that meant. And sometimes it just kind of happens. Like I was saying with my art director, like he sort of became a mentor with me, and it was because I would put myself out there and ask him questions. And you know, a lot of people I think are willing to give back, and a lot of people don't realize that. And it's something that you should never be afraid to ask for help, but be aware of how you're going about asking for that help. And definitely try to have somebody that can help keep you accountable and also teach you, you know, that's always going to be a good thing, because you're not, again, you're like not ever going to be the best of the best. There's always somebody that's going to be better than you, and somebody you can learn from. Ashley says,
100%.
First of all, Ashley goes, just wait until Majora's Mask, and I can definitely agree with that. That game is hard as hell.
That's what I keep hearing already. I'm like, in the Ocarina of Time, I'm like, how is this game for kids? I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Majora's Mask, I keep hearing like, yeah, just wait.
Yeah. And then she says, one of my favorite books is called Ikigai, Ikigai. It's all about the Japanese lifestyle of having fulfillment in everything you do, and it's a fascinating read. That's interesting.
I'll definitely write that one down. Thank you, Ashley. I'm always looking for new books. How did you spell that again?
Ikigai. Gai.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I would highly recommend investing in an Audible account. It's just, if you think you have that dead time, whatever, you're traveling, you're driving, you're on the bus, you have an Audible account, boom, you're learning the entire time. If you find the right books, it's super useful.
Are there any podcasts you listen to as well, or is it mostly just books?
I actually don't do podcasts. My buddy's always trying to get me to get into podcasts, but I haven't yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's some interesting.
Is there any that you guys listen to that you find really interesting?
My wife listens to a lot of them. There's a lot of like financial ones that are really fascinating, and like entrepreneur sort of podcasts are kind of interesting to me. But when I'm working, that's kind of not my dead time, but like, because I work at home, I put on like funny podcasts just to kind of, or like video game stuff just to kind of like chill out to. Do you have anything, Oliver, that you listen to?
I've kind of been bouncing around, but I mainly listen to quite a lot of interviews and like artist interviews, because like in the mornings, just to used to be a lot of Bobby Chu, quite, and and Proker quite recent. So, yeah, quite a few to name.
Nice.
But, mix things up a bit.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Marco Bucci, Oliver?
I have seen some of his stuff.
Because
Not the.
he has a free YouTube channel now, which is a lot like his class. I think you would really like him because he's extremely painterly.
All right.
I think you would get a lot out of him, and he has. It's like all of his classes are basically on YouTube. I mean, they're obviously not to the extent of the CGMA classes, but they're basically the same. You might
he has
like
a 10 minutes to better painting sort of
yeah,
series,
exactly.
which is great.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, one of the best things about him is his voice is so freaking soothing to listen to. It's like you just want to keep consuming his content because he sounds good, you know?
Yeah.
So that definitely helps as well.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of Nathan Fowkes. I sometimes like I can't concentrate all the time because his voice is so
puts you to sleep.
yeah. On schoolism. He's great though as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a.
Yeah, you want to read it, Oliver?
Yeah, so Rakuen9 asks, I also like seeing long-form interviews with actors. They are familiar with failure in a way that's very interesting for me as an artist, because I noticed that people who draw or paint or design less familiar with rejection, and they have some interesting insight.
Yeah, I think learning that people struggle is definitely an important part of growth, and it is something that you're gonna fall 7 times, but you got to get back up 8 times, sort of thing. Have you found yourself in any major struggles along your journey to getting to where you are, Connor?
I guess just at the very beginning, you know, when I was at VFS, like I almost quit in my first term. So we started doing what are they called? Still lifes.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, draw these cars, and I like tried to draw this car.
Still life, dude.
Yeah, and I looked down, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? And I actually almost quit because like I couldn't draw at all. But that's when I really started reading a lot, and I started reading that book, and I figured out that, you know, nobody's inherently good at something. You just practice, and that's all anything in life is. The more you do it, the better you get. So I just started going to school 8 to 10 hours a day, and, you know, after 6 months, you know, I could draw.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like you were saying, I mean, failure is, yeah, everything is, you're just failing is getting better, basically, in my opinion. I love failing. It means I'm learning. It's like the same thing as being uncomfortable, kind of like everybody fails. Like the best people have failed the most out of all of us, because they've failed more and they know how to not do something more times than other people who say haven't practiced as much or haven't failed as much.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, they said I'm embracing it now, actually. Embrace the failure.
I can't. Yeah. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Connor. Yeah, because when we were at school, you're always the one that like always pushes, and I remember you constantly ask, and it really has paid off. And like just seeing the level of work that you just produced from just it is really incredible just to see you got to where you are.
Thanks, Oliver. And it's also all those books, man. Like once I really realized that like it's the amount of hours you put in, then I was just like, oh, once I put in 10,000 hours, I'll be a master. So I might as well start now. And I just started. You know, I think it's in the book that it's like 4 hours. If you do on average 4 hours of dedicated practice a day, you'll be a master in 10 years of whatever you want to do. So start now, folks.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to see the top of the mountain when you're at the bottom. But
yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like what's important is to look for the next rest stop, not the top of the mountain, you know? And that's kind of how that's sort of a safe and easy way to not like either overwork yourself or stress yourself out too much, because it is really easy to look around on the internet and be like, there's no freaking way I'm going to get as good as this person,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you keep working at it, you eventually will, and it'll kind of come in like humps. I remember like, you hit these plateaus and you're just like, man, why am I stuck? But that's the point when, in my opinion, you need to branch out and like go meet new people, because there might just be one little tidbit of information that you don't have yet that somebody's bound to give you, that's going to completely change the way you look at your work or the way you produce your work.
Right.
So, the only failure for me right now is not doing the work, and it's still hard sometimes to get motivated, but now I just try to enjoy the process and not stress out about the result as much.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. I would say it's not about the result. It's be a process oriented person, and the results will come eventually, for sure.
But there is something to be said as well, I think, about like taking a realistic look and not trying to stray away too much from the work you should be doing. There's like a fine line between procrastination and overworking, or like not working enough. And for me, what has helped is like having a set schedule, almost like school or a job or anything else, even if you're just working at home, and just be like, all right, I'm going to commit to these hours. And even if the work I produce sucks, at least I know I worked those hours,
Yeah, I would agree. I do the exact same thing, actually. I know exactly when I'm drawing, and no matter what, just start. And yeah, I find that's very, very helpful.
Yeah. Okay. I get motivated if I fail because it means I have a lot more to learn. The learning process of art is one of the best bits. Yeah, I agree. It also can be a bit demoralizing sometimes. I definitely know that feeling.
Sometimes, for sure.
Also, another question: have you found ways to distance your self-worth as a person from the quality of your work? Because I find it hard sometimes because I like art so much and it affects a lot of aspects of my life.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might just go back to, because I read a lot. I find I have a very broad kind of sense of things, and I can really differentiate the two. I can know that, my art isn't me. It's just what I do, I guess. And even if, because sometimes I make really stuff that I really don't like, and it just means that I didn't make it that time, but next time I'll just strive to be better.
Yeah,
I think that helps.
I kind of agree. I think what you said with like, my art is not me. It's like, your art is not you. You put your identity into your art. So if you think about it that way, it's an easier way to sort of separate yourself from your art and make it so that your art isn't your entire identity, because it's not. There's other things about you that are special, and those are the things that you want to inject into your art to sort of set yourself apart. And that's kind of like an important thing to really push for. And Connor, it kind of seems like that's what you've been doing with your personal projects, in a way, and what probably made your portfolio stand out to the company you work for now. So, Oliver, do you have any comment on that?
No, I agree with all the points. Like, I think it's like your experience, life experience definitely feeds into your art. Like, I think it's important to, like, for me, I definitely struggled about like who I am as a person and what my art means and what value it can give to other people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where you sometimes, when you reach that stage, you kind of have to like come away from it a bit and like actually go outside and do other things. Because I think for about 6 to 8 months, I was really, really just stuck about what I wanted to create. Like, really, really stuck. I wasn't really sure if like how to go about studying either, because I just didn't know really what to create.
Yeah.
So I think the only way to really find yourself again is to like come out of that bubble, like bubble, and try new things and
Mm-hmm.
find that passion again to go back and study more, which I did, because I did feel quite lost. So coming back to university and surrounding yourself really, I think, pushes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we kind of all, I mean, I can't speak for you, Connor, but I've also definitely found that a couple times during my career where I'm just like, what am I doing with my life, sort of thing. And it's like, if at the core of your soul you know you want to be an artist, you're going to find a way to get to where you want to be. You got to just keep pushing through it and be like, all right, maybe I feel crappy today, but tomorrow's going to be a better day. And sometimes if you just like not wanting to do your art, you need to just be like, I need to take a break and come back to this later. They said, thanks for tackling the subject. It's something that people kind of shy away from talking about. Yeah, we're happy to talk about that. So yeah, it's definitely an important life skill to learn. And it is something that you can't very easily like Google, like, I'm lost as a person, help fix me, you know? So, yeah, it's all about just continuing to make connections, continuing to focus, and just tell yourself you're always going to get better as long as you kind of push through the failure. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think also surround yourself with positive people.
Yes,
well.
Yes.
Very,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think on that note, we've hit about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to discuss.
Do you have any you guys can
thoughts?
link my Instagram in there if you want. And people feel free, guys, to, I mean, I'm always happy to still answer any questions or whatever. I always like helping other aspiring artists. We got to look out for each other in this business. So if anyone, I don't know, drop me a line, whatever.
I'll link your Instagram, and right on the splash page thing is your website, so people can follow you. So yeah, definitely follow Connor, and keep an eye out. He's not allowed to talk about what he's really working on right now, but hopefully soon, within the year, maybe we'll know more. I don't know.
Who knows?
So let's end it there. I think this was a really good discussion, and thank you everybody for joining. This will be up as a YouTube video soon, so make sure, if you're not following me on Twitch either, please follow me and follow us on YouTube. And until next time, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks so much, guys. This was great.
Awesome.
Perfect.